I'm sorry. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Nightmare Road. I am one of your hosts, Decon, here with a very mysterious,
SOS.
here with a very chaotic,
Haywire.
and we have two special guests here. So if you ladies will introduce yourselves, I don't have a nickname, so I didn't plan.
We have Jess. Say hi, Jess.
Hi.
And Danny. Yeah. And this is going to be a good episode because I reached out on our... What?
I said don't jinx it.
Oh, no. Just stop coughing. Don't cough. Don't cough. That's all. I reached out on our paranormal page and said, does anybody have any really good paranormal experiences that you guys want to share? And you two popped up. Woohoo! And this is going to be good because I know some of the places that Jess been to, and I know exactly where Danny used to live. And so I was like Googling it on Google Maps when we were talking on the phone. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be good because every time I go by that place, I get the chills. So, yeah. So, so as we go through these stories, gals, I want you to go ahead and share your experiences. And I know that you both have more than just one experience. So let's focus right now on just one big experience, and then we'll see where this night goes. This might be great. This might be a really long podcast. So, but Danny, I want to start with you because that place, you don't have to give the exact location. That's fine, but it's in Old Town, right?
But what was that?
It's in Old Town, right? Old Town Pocatello.
Yep. My spouse at the time moved there because his family actually owned it and we were just newly married and poor and the rent was really cheap, so we moved in. But we weren't actually married yet, so I lived there first. Go home, and I felt fine when he was there, but when he wasn't there, I always felt like something was watching me. I never felt like really completely comfortable. And yeah, the first things that started was I started having nightmares that this guy would enter into the apartment, bust down the door, go all the way back to the bedroom, and find me and strangle me. Just like horribly violent things. The base had the washer dryer in the basement, and
Sorry, that is horrific. Holy shit. I might dream about that tonight.
Yeah, I mean, being strangled in your dreams, that's
yeah.
And then you said the washer and dryer's in the basement?
Yeah, and for some reason, that is the creepiest place of the whole apartment. And I would avoid at all I could go down there and do laundry. And I would tell my spouse, and he just kind of would brush it off, But then things started to escalate, as they usually do. And one time I woke up in the middle of the night, something woke me up, and then I had this feeling of something on my chest. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't move. My spouse was right next to me, and then when I thought I was gonna, suffocate, then it went off of me, which is now we call it sleep paralysis, which I'd never had at the time, nor have I had since. So then I woke him up, and he could tell I was really freaked out, And that's when I think he started to believe me that things in that place were not normal.
Yeah, if you guys have any of you guys experienced sleep paralysis?
I have.
Yeah.
You all have?
Yeah.
I've had it one time. And it was terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I did once. At a trailer park, I had a little bit too much to drink. I ended up falling asleep, and there was like a crackhead, like trying to, get the stuff underneath me. But that's not the point.
So, Danny, you how many units are in this apartment building?
There's 4, so it's a 4-plex. And
Okay.
we lived in the top right one.
Okay.
Did you ever
And
find out what the hell happened in that laundry room?
No. And I've been thinking about it since I talked to Colleen, like, if I'd ever want to go back there. I don't know.
Yeah.
At the time, I had kind of blocked off my gifts because now I know that I have them. And now that I'm more open to my gifts, and I don't know if maybe I'm just, the fear that you had then, and then the fear can sometimes, they can play on that fear that you had. But then also it'd be like a way of conquering it and taking your power back over the situation. But
there was something else that happened in that apartment building. Do you want to talk about that?
I could go with my experience if you'd like. This is the one that freaked me out the most.
Oh shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on.
So
Okay, go ahead.
so
Serious.
as I said before, escalate because it doesn't just start with something major. So then by that time I was working across the street at the grocery store, and I was pregnant with my daughter now at that time. And so they let me go home early, and I was laying on the bed, and it was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was still sunny outside. So I was laying on the bed, I was falling asleep, and like when you're in between sleep and awake, and I felt something sit on the bed. I'm like, well, whatever, like I'm just dreaming or whatever. So then I try to go back to sleep, and then the same again, where I feel like I'm just falling asleep. I felt something sit on the bed and grab my foot. And then after that, I just started saying, please God, whatever this is, just have this go away. And then after that, I got to the point where I told my ex every day, I'm like, I can't live in this place anymore. And I started going to friends' place to do my laundry instead of going down there. Because whatever was in that apartment, though, in my opinion, is demonic. Absolutely.
Oh man,
Mhm.
Yeah, anything's grabbing
Say
me,
that
I'm
very
out.
yeah, you gotta do some research on that place. It could have been like the home of the IRS back then or some shit. I don't know. That sounds horrible.
So then, after, let's see, so that was 25 years ago, and I was working at a doctor's office, and unfortunately, or only a few years ago, and unfortunately, when people pass away, you have to take them out of the system. And I took this young girl out of the system, and I happened to look at her address, and it was the apartment below us at that time. And she
Ooh.
unfortunately committed suicide.
Oh.
Now, do I know if
So
that's related? I hope not. But then on the other hand, like I only lived there for I think 6 months, and I couldn't
sorry.
for 6 months. So yeah,
Yeah, so near sorry, I have really out of control dogs tonight. Stop it.
It's probably the
Stop it.
ghosts. The ghosts are probably driving them
It could
crazy.
be.
It's probably the
Oh my
IRS
god,
ghost that
they're
was in your
driving me
apartment.
crazy.
true.
Jeez. You should have
So
burned
in
that
your
place to the ground.
opinion, I mean, in all of your opinions here, do you think, and I certainly have my views on it, but I want to hear what everybody else to say. Do you think negative paranormal experiences can drive someone to suicide?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I
Hey, Bar?
don't.
Okay. I mean,
Uh,
and Decon, what do you think?
well, right now I could go on a tangent. I mean, when we look at somebody, see, never mind. Just go. I'm just gonna go on a rabbit trail here, and will never find me. Look,
Well, okay, so, but if you already have depression or anxiety or something like that, and then you have a negative entity not necessarily demonic, but just negative even entity in a home, it kind of, I think, becomes a circular thing, right? Because it's driving your anxiety. You're already an anxious or maybe depressed person, and then you're having this paranormal event or events, and then it's just feeding it, and it just becomes this thing that's feeding on it. And I I kind of think that it could tend to push someone over the edge. But I think you have to already have that anxiety or depression component, or something's already feeding that fear, and then that thing that can come in and create a power of its own, kind of thing. It almost can become, um, you know how, I mean, we create a poltergeist, right? So if if you've got a negative haunt, boy, that could send somebody who's already emotionally unstable. Not, I don't want to make it sound terrible, but
Just make it sound
unstable.
horrible. Just do it.
I know, and that's not what I'm trying to come out as, because mental illness of any kind is just so hard for society to deal with. So hard for us to acknowledge that it's a real thing. So somebody's already battling with some of these things, and then you have this horrible negative presence in a building. Oh my God. And then because it's more than one a unit. And that's why, as a team, we don't do apartment buildings. We really, really don't do apartment buildings. It's got to be a really rare case. Because you don't know where it's coming from.
I would go
It's
door to door. I would wear like a uniform. You guys should all wear uniforms, like your pest control. Just knock on a door, like, "Hey man, there might be an infestation in your apartment. Trust us. You want us in here." And then when then what? You're gonna dress like a Ghostbuster.
Oh,
I thought
well, you
maybe you were
lost
going to do
haywire.
IRS.
See, she hung up on you.
Oh, see, this is
Uh-oh.
well,
Did haywire leave?
the she. If hold on, where's the Ouija board? If Haywire is with us, please shut off my
Well,
power.
because after that, and I brought it
Go
up
ahead, Danny.
to my family,
Stop.
bring up that I lived at that place. They're like,
Me?
"Oh,
Are we all
we're so
frozen?
glad you moved from that place. We hated that place
What's
too." Because
happening
I thought
here?
maybe it was just me, you know. And
Hello?
yeah, and then I know that my cousin or my ex-husband's cousins also moved there. Always wanted to ask them
If they
if
had
they had it.
anything.
Yeah, where I'm probably sure they did because they didn't live there long either.
Huh, do you think it was the actual place, or were you like dealing with shit and like, I don't know, maybe attracting negativity?
I don't think so because I was newly married. I was newlywed. You know, we were happy
Yeah.
and this.
Poor, happy, and just yeah. I always ask
Yeah,
that question, even though I'm not like like to people know I'm kind of a skeptic, but like I have whenever somebody says like, yeah, I don't know if it was me, I was in this apartment or this place, and negative things started happening. It's like, well, maybe you're just a douchebag. I don't know. No, I'm kidding. But it's usually a person that's able to like I don't know, like what's you said that you were sorry guys. You said that you were you had
She's
abilities
back.
of some
Sorry.
kind. Oh, I wonder, and this is a theory that I have. I might sound stupid, or I might just be too drunk. But how much of it is like this person may be able to, you know, talk to us or some shit, or maybe they follow the person who's open. Like maybe the neighbor underneath is an asshole, and they're like, I don't want to talk to this fucking person. Let's go talk to the other person.
well, my husband at the time we talked about that. He kind of was like, nah, nah, nah. And then I thought, well, maybe it's just because some people are more sensitive to spirits and they somehow know, oh, she's sensitive to spirits, so I can just screw with her.
Yeah.
But I think towards when we left, I think was inkling whether he really admitted that, you know, to that extent. But like Colleen said, I agree is that if some mental state is very fragile
We lost decom.
and you know, but somebody, I think
Yeah.
that play a
And
part of influence that. That's my.
I want to apologize to everybody for our audio and visual issues tonight, but we are having a snow issues going on outside, so it can lead to issues with our recording, and we
I
can't do
think I
anything
know
about
what's
it.
happening. I know exactly what's happening.
Oh yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Oh God. You get that
I think
stupid
I think the
dog.
ghosts were angry with me for saying no, so they cut out
You
my
know what,
internet for a second.
Econ? It's just
Oh
wrong.
fuck!
It's wrong. Get that damn thing out of here. I
Hey,
swear to God.
how dare you, Chloe? Come on, let's get out of here. I've been kicked out of better
So
homes than
really
this.
have to go on a weekly basis with this guy. So, Jess, you had. I'm gonna. Yeah, you had some really amazing stories. But and I have a picture ready to go
Uh-oh.
that I can share when we are ready. When we're ready. Let's see. So, I. Whoop,
Oh no,
where did everybody go? Are
I'm
you
ready.
guys there?
Yeah, we're
I'm
here.
here.
Yep.
I
I'm just
cannot see
nervous.
any of you right now.
You guys are just making me
Okay.
nervous.
Well, I don't know what's happening because now all of this, now you're back.
Yep.
I don't know what's happening here
You
tonight. I
were
think
Spirits.
insulting my doll. How dare you? She has been
well, you know what?
nothing but kind to you. How dare you?
I don't think kind's the word.
Oh, thank you, Hagar. Yeah,
What?
no.
See, this is why do I even show up?
Do you remember, Decon, when you started coming on our Speaking of Spirits podcast and everything would go crazy?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was like no matter when we recorded, when it was his energy and our energy, everything would go nuts, right?
Yeah.
And now it's like I've got all you guys on here, and so everything's going nuts. Like the screen's going black and everything's. That's just I don't know what's happening, but anyway,
Yeah.
we're gonna keep rolling.
Probably because I didn't pay the water bill.
Could be. I want you back on only because I want to do a whole episode on where you used to work because we had that discussion. So
Yes.
let's not talk about that because that's going to be like an incredible episode. But I wanted yes.
All right.
So
Okay.
the
You need to relax. I'm already nervous.
It's really good. It's really really good because it's crazy haunted. Anyway, it's crazy. It's crazy haunted. And so what do you want to talk about tonight?
Oh, I'm open. I can talk about my first experience. You know, I have been dealing with this special gift that I've had since I was born, I think, but didn't realize it until I was 5. But excuse me. I am an empath medium. I can actually go to places. I can feel, I can see. It just depends on how much I want to leave myself open. It's kind of dangerous just because, you know, I can get a negative entity that can try to attack me, and it's just not good. So, so I've been learning. I've developed my gifts. It's been really actually going really good. I've learned a lot. When you're a teenager, you kind of shut things down. When I was younger, my grandparents were very strong Catholic. So when I would talk that I would see things or I hear things or, you know, I would get shut down pretty fast, you know, like, don't talk like that. You're, you know, going to get in trouble. And it was terrible. So
it was based on their faith.
It was based on their faith.
It's just Catholicism in general. I mean, geez.
Yeah.
I mean, the priest is not anyways, that's not the point. If I can ask, so you said when you were 5, you started to kind of like, do you have any like a story for us, like what happened when you were 5 or 6 years old?
I do, actually. I was just getting to it.
Sorry about that. Jeez.
No, it's okay.
Hate myself.
So we lived in a small town, Grangeville, Idaho. My dad was a truck driver. My mom worked for a little company. I don't know what it was, but anyway, we lived up there. We lived in a blue house and it had 2 levels. We moved in and all it just didn't feel comfortable at all. My and my brother's room were upstairs. It was almost kind of sort of like an attic. And then we had the main floor house. We lived there for about a year, and during the night I would hear footsteps, and I always thought it was just my mom or my dad to make sure us kids weren't playing around, and we were going to sleep. So I would always hear footsteps. I had a really uneasy feeling about the closet, in my room, especially. And keep in mind, this house was built in the 1800s, so it is an older home. It was one of the homes that were actually on the historical register up there in Grangeville. So it was one of the main houses kind of there when it started building the town site. Anyway, there was one particular evening I went to bed. We had school in the morning, and back in those days we had like these old blankets, and they had like little holes you could see through. And I had those blankets, and I I woke up and I seen this man, and he was tall. He had long, gangly arms. I could definitely tell his hair. He had like white hair, but you could see his widow's peak. And he had like a long face, and he was just staring at me. And I just thought, well, maybe I'm dreaming. And of course, I'm a frightened child. I'm like, I don't want to move. And I'm just laying there looking at him. So I took my blanket and I was like this. And I was looking through the holes, and I could still see him standing there. And I just don't know how, but I was just paralyzed. I couldn't move. And I just seen him kind of just look at me. And I don't know how, but I lay there and I fell back to sleep, and I woke up the next morning. But I tried to tell my mom, and she was like, you're just telling lies again. And yeah, I never felt comfortable in that house again. My brother would always come and sleep with me because his room was right next door. He was always frightened. He did not like upstairs at all, and he was like 3. So I think he was being hounded by whomever was in that house. So
Such a creepy description
yeah.
of somebody. That when you describe that person, it sounds like he was like in a sex offender registry, even in the afterlife. But
Oh, I think you may be right.
you know what's funny is I found a sheet like that had the holes in it, but then it turns out it was just a Klan uniform.
Oh,
Oh my God.
yeah. You kind of want to be careful what you wear.
Yeah, I would.
I were
So,
outside. I was like, I'm a spooky ghost.
I'm a spooky ghost.
Danny, did either of your parents have any kind of gifts?
My
Like
parents,
empathic, yeah. Empathic or
well, I was identifying what Jessica was saying because I grew up kind of the same way, where I was really empathetic child. I was super sensitive to people's feelings. I think if I ever did something, I think it scared me so bad that I kind of blocked it out. But then my parents were kind of open to things, even though we didn't grow up Catholic, but we grew up still in a religion, that I think it's hard for people to explain things that are unexplainable. So they just want to
yeah.
say, no, 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 no. But luckily my parents, because my grandmas on both sides also used to see things, see spirits and things like that. So luckily my family was pretty open to it. So that's why I was never afraid to tell my mom, I would call her every day when I was at that apartment, and I'd be just like, Mom, like, I don't know what's going on here, but there's something going on here. But, like Jessica said as well, your rational mind kind of tries to talk you out of it. Or there's a part of you that doesn't want to accept it either because it's kind of scary. You're seeing things that not everybody can see. So, yeah. definitely.
You hear things and you like, I'll, I don't know, it's weird. It's hard to explain, and it's so frustrating as a child because you want to have that open communication with your parents or your grandparents or anybody who would listen, and they won't. It's kind of hard now, but I think it's more open now than when we were
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah, I
Jeez,
agree.
this episode is not just making me sad.
I think
Holy
I
shit.
think it could be what you've been drinking,
Probably,
Decon.
probably. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm over here surrounded by very talented people. I mean, you guys are all like empathetic. I'm just telepathetic. So this is that.
So, Jess, how about you? So, even though your family kind of viewed your abilities or what you were experiencing, do you think they had any gifts? Did they talk to you later?
Yeah, my so funny to say that my granny actually finally confessed to me that she's had abilities, but because of her religious, she always kind of kept it away. And so she had to
Okay.
keep that appearance that she was a good Catholic, and, she didn't like talking about it. My mom, she is. Again, she didn't like talking about it. So, and I have a grandmother that great grandmother that was. So it's a lineage kind of thing. So,
Gotcha. Yeah. And Decon, it's kind of funny because you're like the doubter of everything,
No,
but
I'm
your
not.
family, not you are, but it's like I know you and I know some of the stuff about your family. It's like, come on now.
All right.
So
I got a childhood. I think we covered this in the past episode.
it doesn't matter. Talk to you again.
Okay. So, jeez, now you put me on the spot. Now I'm nervous. All right. So I'm also feeling hot. I wonder if it was when I was drinking. So, all right.
Yeah.
So,
hold your doll. Just hold your doll.
oh, okay. Come comfort me.
Oh my
Does anybody
God.
does anybody feel like they're on fire? Uh,
Yes.
all right. So when I was a kid, we lived in these apartments in Van Nuys, and it's such a dumb story too. Okay, so there was a neighbor upstairs. Her name was Blanca, and Blanca had there was a man in her life that would come from Mexico, and he would come from Mexico, and he would come up like once a month, and he would give my mom like $500. And he's like, "Here's five." I think it was like $300, but he'd give her like $500, and he's like, "Can you watch our daughter? I'm gonna take her out dancing." Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's exactly where he took her. I'm gonna take her out dancing. So he would give my mother the money, and then you know they would go, and then they would come back that morning. So it was like whatever. So then one day the FBI comes in. There was cops everywhere. They kick in the door. This guy gets arrested. The FBI comes. Turns out this guy was like a drug runner for the cartel, and he would and he
Sorry,
would
I was like, oh shit.
oh, and he would come in.
You know?
Sorry. You guys were all laughing, and I felt subconscious. So, anyways, so that happened. Okay, he gets arrested. So then after he gets arrested, a couple of days pass, and then all of a sudden things start moving around the house. All kinds of weird shit starts happening. Then one day, like at 3 in the morning, 2 or 3 in the morning, we hear the door just pop, 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 pop. And then we're like, what the hell, pop, pop. And then my dad opens the door. Blanca comes in, and she's got these huge like gashes on her arms, on her thighs. And then we're like, what the hell happened? She was like she had like she was like covered in blood. She looked like Carrie, So she was. You remember when they hit her with the blood? Yeah, so, anyways, so she looked like she looked. I'm over here. I'll be here all night, guys. So anyways, so she tells this story about how she was performing these rituals. Okay, what? Come on, this is very serious. So she said that she was performing all these rituals, and something came through her little ritual. She had like black candles and all kinds of weird shit. She had like all these like metals and all kinds of like weird shit all over her apartment. So sorry. So then she told the story. She was doing some ritual to kind of help her man get out of prison, but also to torment the people that put him there because she's like, somebody snitched on him. I don't know who it is,
Mhm.
but I summoned this entity, and he was supposed to go and like cause havoc in these people's lives. So this thing came up, grabbed her, scratched her all over, and then she didn't want to stay in her apartment. So we had to go upstairs to, well, I don't know why the hell I went with them, but we all went upstairs to go get her daughter too because she came downstairs bleeding and everything, left her daughter upstairs by herself in the apartment. So, God damn it, she's such a bad mom. Anyways, so she comes down and she tells us all these things. And then my dad went up there and he was like kind of going through her shit and was like breaking all these metals and destroying all kinds of shit. And he was like, "Don't ever fucking do." And she had like painted like these weird symbols on the walls. So then she ended up leaving like months later, and then everything just stopped. I look back and I'm like, what an idiot.
That's kind of a letdown at the ending of that story there, Decon. I mean, you should come up with a different
Okay,
ending.
so then I went upstairs and I said, "You need to get out of this apartment, you demon." Then I put a bar of soap in a pillowcase and then just beat the shit out of it.
Right. So
The,
that's a better ending.
the end.
I like that one. The end. So
See, this is
I
why
think
I don't like to be outnumbered by women.
so I think I mean both of you ladies have abilities. And so probably I mean the experiences that people have when they have abilities I think are heightened, you know? Like we have a member of my family for various reasons. I call him the dead zone. And because we grew up in an incredibly haunted house. It was incredibly haunted. And nothing happened to him ever. But everybody else, even all of our friends, I mean, just hordes of people that were always over at our house, they all had experiences, except one person. So if you have any kind of abilities and then you're in a situation where there's activity, you're probably drawing it. One thing, I mean, if you're a medium, I mean, you're drawing the activity. But then again, like I said, if you have that young lady who took her life, she probably had some kind of abilities. She probably didn't know how to process all of that. And so it led to anxiety or depression or both or whatever. You know, I
Mhm.
mean, we've talked about it numerous times that how many people are diagnosed with schizophrenia who are not,
Yep.
because they have gifts, they're mediums, incredibly strong mediums, and they're seeing things. They don't know how to process it, but you go to a doctor and you tell them that first thing they're going to do is they're going to give you that
Yeah,
diagnosis and start heads.
I
Mhm.
would.
Well, but see here, the thing is, schizophrenia. I mean, if it's truly schizophrenia, right, where you're seeing things, an MRI is going to show that because it changes the brain,
Well,
and so that an MRI shows schizophrenia,
so
and so what?
with the thing with schizophrenia is that some people will. So if you have like a family member that's schizophrenic, and they say weird shit like, "Yeah, the ceiling was, calling me name," whatever the hell it is, and then you hang out with this person enough, eventually. It doesn't happen all the time. It's like a very small percentage. I forget the name of it. I can't recall right now. My head is kind of messed up. Anyways, um, so you start saying like, you know what? I think I hear the ceiling calling me names too. And it's a condition where they say that some people are susceptible to actually like not contracting schizophrenia, but they're kind of like they open themselves up to the ideas that the schizophrenic is saying. And part of me is like, is that really schizophrenia? If you fucking go home, sorry, jeez, if you go home and you're sitting there and like, you know what? I think that it is right. The radio is talking to me. I can hear him right now. Or do you think that something that was there followed you home?
Well, I mean,
I wish I had
so
like eerie music.
yeah, well,
I'm just
I
eerie in
always
general.
hesitate on how much to divulge on the podcast, but somebody that I was related to for a time was schizophrenic. And I can tell you that when the medication was working, everything was level. But when the medication was not working, and he was an incredibly gifted medium on top of it. Like, there was a definite separation. I could tell what was the paranormal side and what was the schizophrenic side. Um, and
I was gonna put on a tinfoil
you
hat.
can tell. Well, okay. For example, a friend of his ran a business, and his son also worked in the business. And this person that I knew had just talked on the phone to this guy who ran the business, like earlier in the afternoon. About 8 o'clock that night, he gets a phone call. And before the phone call, I could hear him talking and downstairs, and he was really confused. He's like, I don't understand why you're here. We just talked on the phone. Because the dad would come to him constantly and have these conversations with him. But I knew that wasn't the schizophrenic side. That was the medium side. And I could hear him clearly downstairs going, I don't understand why you're here. We just talked. And I could hear this conversation going on. And I'm like, well, this is interesting. I wonder what's happening. And it was like, boom, the phone rang. And it was this guy's brother saying, I just found him hanging. That's how fast he came to the house. I mean, he was dead and he was there. So, people, you can tell if you're close enough to somebody who has schizophrenia, you can tell what is, how do I explain it? What is a manifestation just in their head and it's not real, and what is there's clearly somebody. That guy was there. He was downstairs talking to him because he's like, I don't understand why you're here. How can you be here? Well, he just hung up on the phone. How can you be here? I don't understand. I mean, he was so confused. He's like, what the hell's going on? I only see the dead. What's going on? Well, it's because the guy just died.
Oh.
So you can, yeah, if you're close enough to somebody who has schizophrenia, you can tell what's happening.
I think I have schizophrenia.
Well, I know you do.
I just
saying.
I just need friends.
But I just think that if you are already somebody who has something going on, and then you have an ability on top of that, how hard would that be to manage all of that at one time?
Mm-hmm.
Incredibly hard. And if you go to a medical doctor, they're going to medicate you right off the bat. They're not even going to deal with it. They're going to say schizophrenia or something, psychotic break.
Here's something that's interesting. So there was this case in the 1991 where this guy was claiming to be a medium, if you were to call that. He was claiming to be a medium. He was a psychic, whatever you want to call it. And then there was this doctor that was very like open about, you know, not believing in the paranormal. He wasn't me. Stop it. He wasn't like open to the paranormal and all that kind of stuff. 1992. I was little. Anyways, so the point is, so he medicated this guy, and then when he medicated this guy that was claiming to see all these things, he was like, do you see anything now? And he's like, no, you know, and it's like, see, everybody, he was just schizophrenic. And then I start thinking, depending on how much I've had to drink, I just start thinking, I'm like, what if the medication dulls your senses? Just like with everything else,
right?
You know, like, and it's just one of those things where it's like, take the medication, I'm going to quickly throw a ball at you and let's see the difference, you know, and it's just like, slows you down, does something to you. So that's the conspiracy that I have.
It's interesting that you just said that, because while she was talking, I was thinking, well, they give the medicine to people who have this mental illness, and that's what their goal is. They believe that these pharmaceutical drugs are going to cure everything. And so they give them, and I used to work at a place that provided lots of medication to people and to numb them so they don't feel anything. And so at that, you don't know what they're talking about. I mean,
Can I ask
it's
you a
Yep.
crazy
question?
and sad. Yeah.
Um, how quickly would they medicate me with everything just by just hanging out?
I would make sure they would do it like within 10 minutes when you
Um,
arrive.
what if I what if I have the doll with me?
Faster.
We'll take the doll.
That's
We'll leave you alone.
Okay, see that's called negotiation, people. That's an art that is lost nowadays.
The dolls.
No
Dolls.
negotiation. Like you take the
Oh.
doll, you don't medicate me.
That's that.
Um.
It's called a trade, people. It's called a twofer.
We'll make
Yeah.
we'll make good
Yeah.
trade.
I just. Yeah. So Danny, after you left that apartment building, have you continued to have experiences?
Mm-hmm. It was funny when you said that somebody in your family, despite having other people in their family that have gifts, there's one particular family member that says, I don't want to open myself to that. So
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't have any.
Mm-hmm.
So my grandma that had a gift, she was staying at her sister's
Sorry.
house,
Oh, me? Not doing anything.
and
No,
it was in their attic,
your
and
doll.
there you
Sorry.
go.
Go ahead,
And
Danny.
she saw something walk out of the closet, and she thought, wow, was this just me? But then her niece was staying in the bedroom across from her, and she screamed too. And then she's like,
This
okay,
is the person who didn't want
well,
any.
no, because then later it's it's somebody in my family. Whether we used to go there to the house as children, and we'd always be scared to go up in the attic. Started upstairs, and we said, okay, but Grandma had that experience, and so did her cousin. And he's like, I didn't know about that. And we're like, you never got the creeps when you went upstairs? And he's like, no. And I was like,
Okay.
do you really like going hauntings? And he's like, no. And I was like, huh, how could all of us? Because he's the only one that doesn't.
What do you call that? The dead zone. The
I don't
I
know.
call well.
the
That's what I called. I called him as the
they
dead
used
zone.
to call me
Yeah.
the dead
He,
zone because I never hugged anybody at Christmas.
but he's also like really scientific guy, really analytical. Maybe he just doesn't allow that because he can't explain it, and
Yeah.
he doesn't allow it. I don't know. I've
Mm-hmm.
always thought about that myself too,
Mm-hmm.
but I still do now. I was going to say, I think at the time too, when you do have experiences like Jessica was saying, you actually don't want to tell people because you think, oh my God, they're going to think I'm totally crazy. But then once you accept it, and for a long time, how I saw my gifts was like as a movie in my head. And I didn't know that that's how I was seeing it. My mom just told me, oh, you just have a vivid imagination.
Oh
You're
boy.
things. When at the time,
Imagination.
yes,
Imagination. That's what they used to say about me when I was a kid, mostly because I was stupid.
I don't.
So, Haywire, you're always very quiet. What about you? Do you
I'm just
have?
observant.
She's just observing, taking in the
I'm,
environment. She's
I'm
recon.
diagnosing all of you right
She's
now.
reconsidering whether or not she wants to be on a damn show.
Sweet.
Do
Um,
What were you
you
asking now?
have you had any experiences, Haywire, that you want to share?
I'll play off of Old Town. I don't know if anyone told you, like, when you lived in Old Town, how haunted it was, but the first day I worked there, I was told, like, hey, there's a ghost in the basement. I was like, oh, funny, make fun of the new girl, So they sent me down there, and I heard this weird noise, and I was just like, it's an old building, like, just praying, like, just like, I gotta get out of there, just gotta get what I need. And I went home to my apartment, and I was telling my roommate that I had heard a noise and I thought it was a ghost. And at that moment, all the electronics in our house turned off. I have never gotten out of anywhere so fucking fast in my life. I was just gone. So that's my old town one. It's definitely haunted. I worked in like 3 or 4 buildings there, and every building has some sort of activity.
Same here.
Interesante.
Yeah.
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 Jeez, now I gotta. And I was like,
Is it
man. Well, damn.
the Whitman?
There's so much to unpack here. I also have a story in the. Remember when I told you years ago the story of the astral projection? What is
Yeah.
your guys' opinion on astral projection?
I
Oh,
believe.
absolutely believe in it.
Yeah, I used to do it as a kid before I knew that's what it was. Like I would have dreams that I was visiting my grandparents' house, but I was like floating above, watching, and I just thought I was having a dream about flying until I went to a spiritual mentor, and she's like, "You know that you can astral travel, right?" And
Whoa.
what the hell is that? You
Yeah,
know?
that's
Yep.
crazy
My
because
whole childhood.
that is one thing that
Yep.
a lot of people have, and they're like, you have to dream that you're flying. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
like how much of that?
Yep.
Last time I astral projected, I was arrested because I was found in the neighbor's house. Anyway, I'm just joking. All right, so so how long ago was this? Probably like 3 something years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. So I was okay. So my father would always, everybody would always tell these stories about him. He's like, your dad can leave his body, And then I was like, sure he can, And then they would, and then they would tell these stories about him. Like, no, I'm serious. One time, um, we challenged him or something, and then he laid down flat on the bed, and then, well, first.
I lost your sound.
It was the doll.
It's the doll.
Indeed, it was. Just get rid of her now.
Talk, Decon.
And then that's what happened when I was 5. I'm kidding. That's not okay. That's not what I was saying. I didn't know whether to go with that. I was gonna say, and that's why I'm not allowed at the petting zoo. No. So so he would. Jeez, why am I here? Uh, um, because it's your destiny. No, so Destiny was this girl that worked at a club. No, so SOS, are you all right?
My
Holy
God.
shit, you're beat red.
Too much cold medicine, and now this.
Jeez.
All right.
I was gonna continue whispering, and whenever I whisper, I was like, he sounds like a damn, what is that? A conspiracy theorist phone sex operator. Anyways, so they would say things like, all right, damn it, damn. So there he was. So they were saying like, turn off. All right, that's what they would say. Like, all right, turn off the light, And then he was like, all right. So they say he would lay down on the bed, and then he would just take a couple deep breaths, and then, and then all of a sudden the light would turn off. There was like one of those little fans that had a heavy clicker. It's not like it was faulty wiring. It had a heavy clicker that when you would click it, it would very loudly go click, and then because it was like heavy plastic, so click, and the fan just, and then he would come back, and that's what your father used to do. And I was like, all right, so whatever. So then years later, and I was always like, you guys, what are you guys drinking or smoking? So then one year, I was in bed, and I sit up, and I was like, man, I think I'm having a. Well, at first I thought like, am I dreaming? I'm like, no, I'm not dreaming. I can move around. I can do all kinds of things. So I get up, but the room looked kind of wavy in a way, and something seemed off. So then I start moving, and as I'm picking up speed, I notice that I can move a lot faster than normal. And I did see, now I sound dumb. Like, this is the worst move I've ever. So then I kind of did like a jump, and I was able to jump super high. And I'm like, all right, this is cool. I'm gonna go outside. So I went outside, and I'm going outside. All of a sudden, I see something in the distance, like up the road, and he said, "Hey," or "you," or something. I can't like what it said, but it's trying to get my attention. And I kind of like look over, and this thing had like, and I knew I had features. First thing I did was And for those of you, it's called a lucid dream. When you're lucid dreaming, the one thing you want to do is you want to look at a piece of paper because you shouldn't be able to read. Or if you look at time, you look at the time, you look away, you look back, and it should be a completely different time. So I was able. That's how you can tell if you're dreaming. And so, I was looking at stuff, and I can clearly read. I'm like, all right, I'm reading, and then this thing made a sound and starts running super fast, like into the house. And I was like, that's bizarre. And I run back into the house too. And I'm running into this is now beginning to sound really dumb. Never mind. So I
No.
so then this thing is now like the bed, and I could see myself like, so I reach in and I grab this thing and I kind of like pull it back, and now me and this thing are kind of like wrestling around. I'm like, I'm gonna do I'm gonna do a Kimura. So I grab it in a Kimura and I try to do like dislocate the shoulder. And I do that, and it's able to bend completely. I'm like, this is not working at all. So now we're kind of like fighting like girls, like rolling around the floor. And I finally am able to go up to the bed. I reach up and I grab my foot, and then immediately I sit up. And I was like, I am exhausted. The end. So.
Oh, that's like the worst nightmare. Oh.
So later.
So wait a minute. You were lucid. You were dreaming of this thing.
Yeah.
And you woke yourself up by touching your foot?
Yeah, I reached up and my instinct was you gotta go and, make contact. I don't know why I was thinking that. So that was my reaction, because I think it was because I saw this thing like running in and crawling like onto the bed. Like crawling onto the bed. So I'm like, grabbed its foot and we're wrestling around. We're fighting really dumb. It looked like it looked like a 1950s action movie. We're over there rolling around, and I reach up and I grab. It looked like a John Woo film. So I grab the ankle, and all of a sudden, I wake up and I'm like, damn, I'm so tired. So then later, I was kind of embarrassed about that stupid story, and then I was kind of talking to my father about it. I'm like, yeah, so this damn thing happened, and he's always like very stoic, don't get along, have issues. Anyways, that's not the point. The point is like, yeah, you just might want to be careful, because if you get lost, you're kind of fucked. So I was like, oh, okay, the end.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. Because
go ahead.
That same spiritual kind of mentor I had that said that if you know that you can astral travel, you can eventually learn to control it, and but you do have to be careful that you can bring yourself back fully into your body. So I think your family gifts, that your dad was able to do that, and that spirit was maybe, going to try to be
separate
in your house, or influence you somehow.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you were gonna protect your physical body. So I don't think it's a stupid story at all.
I think imagine if this thing took control of my body, and then all of a sudden I was lost out there, and everybody's like, oh, Deacon? He's such a better person.
Yeah, just make me smarter and more attractive, okay? Can I whatever is out there? Yeah. So yeah, I met a lady in Idaho Falls who she goes every day. Every day. She in her recliner, she astral projects every single day. And but she tends sometimes to bring things back with her. So it's not always a good thing. And she has great control to be able to come and go. And she can just like that, she's gone. But things come back through that veil sometimes. And she's had to learn how to deal with some of that. So
there's a lot of shaman. There's a lot of shaman out there that their whole purpose is to bring back soul pieces that are left behind when people astral project, especially on accident.
Yeah.
I have an uncle who is Native American, and he's a shaman, and so he from the Coeur d'Alene tribe, and so they do a lot of that too, as well as like healing. So
yeah, I had a friend who was Native American. He drank a lot. There's no point in that story. It's just, yeah.
Well, Irish, we drink a lot too. So I think sometimes the gifts can influence your perception of life, and it's I just caution people that if you are having any kind of if you're struggling, suicidal thoughts, anything like that, to start reaching out to somebody to get help, because if you're having paranormal experiences on top of it, that's a heavy load, man. And get help, and reach out, because and even the paranormal teams can only help you with paranormal stuff. Reach out also to somebody to help you get through maybe those difficult anxiety or depression times, because it's real, and I think it can be affected by the paranormal events in your life as well. It can compound it. You can certainly make things more difficult for you. That's why it's silly, but it's called grounding, right? And a lot of grounding or earth, it's where you go outside. And a lot of people say walk barefoot. Well, I have a farm. You don't ever walk barefoot. So, but get outside.
Step in
I
animal
have to
shit.
be around my, yeah, yeah. I have to go outside. I have to be physically around my animals every day. It brings me down to that neutral plane where I need to be, because otherwise I'm always researching dark stuff, and we're always researching all kinds of weird stuff. And then I'm really diving deep sometimes into these topics, but I need to go outside. I need to be in nature, and I need to be with animals, and I need to be with the trees and things like that, because I just sigh when I get outside, like, whew. You need to find that outlet.
Yes.
So
I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
I have to do it almost every day.
Yeah. And yeah, you have to be outside. You have to do something to bring you back down to earth, to that plane of neutrality, that where we're from the earth, and makes you feel better. So
Yeah, because people lose that. That's why I think there's like so much insanity in cities. Because I think people are just like far away from nature. Like one day, you're living in like, I don't know, like especially with people that are from like the country and then they move into a city, and then they kind of slowly like lose their mind. It's probably because you're surrounded by Democrats. But anyways,
so you had to go there.
but
So
let me bring it back. Let me bring it back. So, and I think that's why a lot of people, like therapists, will say things like go on a hike, go on a there's actual evidence that this, and then when you go out into nature, all of a sudden you don't have that urge to punch a dog anymore.
Well, but I think it's true, because when I was in the service, right, and you get in, and you get station places that are just, you're like, oh God,
Oh,
you don't, so I was always kind of trying to figure out how to find the best of where I was at, because it wasn't where I wanted to be. So you have to sometimes get out of that. You have to go searching for what makes, because it's not going to be at your doorstep sometimes. So yeah. But Danny, Jesse, Jess, thank you for sharing your stories and talking with us tonight. I thought it was awesome.
Thank you.
Anytime. I loved it.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm a jackass.
Yeah.
But
What?
Oh, stop it. Um, um,
What?
this was a fun episode. God damn it, dude. So a fun episode, guys. Thanks for joining us on this wonderful episode with our wonderful guests, our two wonderful hosts. Not me. Don't include me in that. So do you guys have anything you guys want to plug? Any of you?
No, not at this time. No.
I want to plug in
I'm
a heater.
distracted by the dog.
Cold.
I will say before we wrap up the show that on January 13th, Pocatello Paranormal Research is going to be doing a live stream of our investigation coming up. As soon as I get permission to reveal the location, I will. I might not get permission to reveal it, but we can still live stream parts of that investigation. So go make sure you're on our Facebook page, because that's where we live stream all of our work
Ooh,
for the night.
can I go?
Yep.
You hesitated. Never mind.
Well, no, it's 4 stories, man. So I can put you up in the attic when I'm in the basement. We'll be just fine.
You're like, yeah, fuck that. You'll send me to the wrong location. I'm like, I don't. This is a haunted 7-Eleven. Like,
Right.
these,
The Maverick down the street. That's it.
like,
Watch
oh,
out for the nacho cheese.
yeah, that nacho cheese is surrounded by meth heads. Like, oh, this place is haunted. They're probably ghosts.
One tooth.
Yeah, the one. Anyways, guys, thanks for you guys are silly. Oh, jeez. Thanks for joining us, guys. This episode was actually a lot of fun. Remember, guys, to like and subscribe. Share the show if you want. You share it. Just share it, or that's what's gonna kill me if I don't say that. Share it. With everybody, even the people you don't like. Like, kind of say, like, I'm gonna ruin this person's night. You should check out the show. It's called Nightmare Road. But anyways,
Share it with anybody, people you don't want to make friends with.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's it. I'm not feeling very well anymore. So remember, guys,
All right.
to always look both ways, especially if you find yourselves on Nightmare Road. I did the voice on Nightmare Road.
Okay.